We're going to talk about coming this Friday on the Clutch City Classic. Give us a hype reel on what that event's going to be.
Yeah, so the Clutch City Classic is an idea that I had earlier this year. It's really all 8 or 9 of the wrestling promotions that run in the Houston Premier Arena. And we're all going to come together to put on an event in collaboration. There's going to be everybody putting their best match forward, or a match that represents their brand.
So, thank you so much for joining us, Kiefer, on the finale for Crash Course. How are things on your neck of the woods?
It's going good. The weather's a little rainy here, but I'm excited to be here. Excited to be on the season finale. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. Thanks a lot. So, tell us now. We've talked with JJ and with Father Ode. Like, tell us where was New Texas founded? What was your origin story?
So, it actually was founded in West Texas. It was me, Terrell Tempo, Max Heights. We all wanted to wrestle in front of our friends and family back in West Texas. And so there wasn't really like a prominent wrestling promotion out that way. And we all just got together and we decided we were going to run 2 shows up that way, one in Colorado City and one in Abilene. And they both were incredible shows. And, that's really the origin of New Texas Pro Wrestling. It never really was supposed to be. It was only supposed to be a 2-show thing. It was never supposed to be, now we're almost going on year 6 of New Texas Pro Wrestling. So it's pretty wild to see where it's come from and the origins that it's come from and to see what it is today.
And what's interesting too is like, when did that moment that the fans were starting to get what New Texas is? Like, what was that moment when that happened?
I mean, the first couple of shows, really, I mean, we drew a lot of people. We drew almost 250 people in Colorado City that first show. And then the show in Abilene drew almost 300 people. That really was kind of the moment when the fans were like, when's the next show happening? And, we're so excited about this. We want this to stick around. And the wrestlers had that same enthusiasm that they were like, when are we going to do this again? Like, what's next? And so now from that time period, the October, December of 2018 to now, it's been like, well, when are we doing this again? What's next?
Yeah.
So, the fans have hopped on very quickly, and we've been fortunate to have such a great fans and support system from almost from day one.
And what's interesting too, and I was thinking about like how wrestling promotions are run. Like, what were some obstacles that you had to go through, or learning things along the way? Like, what were some of those hurdles that you had to go to where New Texas is today?
That's a good question, man. I think there's always growing pains with every wrestling promotion and really every business. It's a little more financial strain than I think people realize. There's a lot of, booking things. I think everyone in their mind thinks that, I'm going to be this tremendous booker and I'm really excited about it. We're going to do these super duper elaborate storylines, and you just always have to be flexible when you're promoting and booking, and you always have to be able to pivot on a moment's notice. And that was a lot of the growing pains early on, is just that we had ideas and then went out the window. And so now we have a much better system in place of being able to book these shows and promote these shows and everything. That, maybe the last 3 or 4 years we've really just running on all cylinders. So.
And what was the one match that made you say, okay, I think this is the one?
As far as when I was growing up as a fan, or just as a promoter?
As a promoter, like when you started to having these pieces together, was there a match that you said,
yeah,
oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened in a good way?
There's been so many of them that I just, as a wrestling fan, I've sat there and I've watched some of these matches that have happened on New Texas Pro Wrestling and just been absolutely amazed. Like I said, as a fan, not even that it happening on my show, but just to sit back, see these matches. I mean, there's just so many of them. Even early on, there was, AJ Blake and Terrell Tempo when they wrestled for the championship first off. There's Roxanne Perez. She had a lot of great men on our show. There's one with Billy that really catapulted both of their careers to be signed with the Ring of Honor, which, now they're both much more successful with that. Brian Keith had some incredible matches with Mysterious Q and Speedball Mike Bailey and Timothy Thatcher. And he had so many matches on New Texas Pro Wrestling that really built his resume and made him the independent star that he was before he signed with AEW. I mean, there's the tables, light, and chairs match from this Watch the Throne show that we had was just absolutely incredible. I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat back there in Gorilla, just watching it and mesmerized and amazed and getting emotional just because I root for everyone that's ever stepped through our doors. And I mean, I guess it's tough to say one match when people are like one match to say that there's so much in our history. And, I feel fortunate to be involved and to help put together so much of that stuff.
And it's interesting how you bring this up too, where we're seeing all these stars that are moving up within the major promotions, and you've done your part in training a lot of these wrestlers. Is there a blueprint to leading someone to be where they're at today while they're training with you at New Texas?
It's not really a blueprint, honestly. I think every situation is a bit different. Every person's a bit different. So really just trying to get to know the person, on every level and trying to understand what they want to do, where they want to go, and just being able to learn how to push them in certain directions and put them in front of the right doors to open up, to give them opportunities, in certain places. And every situation is a bit different. Everyone that's come to our doors, that's, seen success at the next level, they were all different from each other, similar in the ways that they were relentless in wanting to be successful, but different in an approach to them, and approach to getting the most out of them on all of our wrestling shows.
And I'm sure on your side that you were trained, what was some advice that your own mentors have taught you over the years?
Oh man, there's so much advice that I've been given over the years. It's, all the way from this is Romeo and Juliet, or this is Shakespeare, to, I like to equate when you get in the business, you're trying to put together this giant puzzle in wrestling, right? As a wrestler. And as you go along and as you do training under this person, you'll do training under that person, you'll do a seminar with this person, you start to collect these puzzle pieces for your puzzle to, that helps put, like I said, you put the puzzle pieces together. And the thing about wrestling is you're never really going to finish that puzzle, but you can always add more and more pieces to this puzzle that you learn over time. And that puzzle can be closer to finished. But, there should be nobody in this business that's not learning and adapting and growing and trying to understand more of what's happening. So, again, the puzzle never gets finished. With the help of so many people, you just constantly add to this puzzle. You add to this puzzle. You add to the puzzle. You constantly get more pieces of the puzzle the longer you're in the business.
It's interesting now that you're training a lot of these talent now, and we're seeing them moving up, at least learning and being where they're at and their level of success. What was that dynamic like? Because now you're being given this advice and passing it along to this younger generation. Like, what was that dynamic like?
It's interesting because you hear so much and you take so much in over all the years. And, that was really what I tried to do when I first got in the business. I tried to soak up everything like a sponge and really just sit under a lot of learning trees and just try to figure out as much as possible. So now that I've learned quite a bit from so many different people and listened and now I have my own life experience in wrestling and promoting and booking and everything like that. I try to do my best to give the best advice that I can for everybody, and what fits them at that particular moment. Because a lot of times, goalpost moves as a wrestler. You gotta teach them one way at one point, and then we get to another level, then you got to do it another way. So, um, it's interesting. I guess now, because I've just done so much promoting and booking over these last several years, you have to kind of be that voice of reason and the voice to give feedback and stuff like that. So I don't think it was a natural thing, but it definitely, it just happened over time that I, had to be that to a lot of different people.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because I had JJ on before, where like there is and JJ's understanding to at least reach out to the talent, and we ended the conversation. That was the first thing that he asked is like,
Yeah.
what do you want out of this? And that's the very first question that they would ask before asking anything, because like, yes, it's showing a lot of initiative to see if they're really ready for what's going to happen once they
Yeah.
do step in the ring in that aspect too. And by the time we end the record, by the time this recording happened, Stand and Deliver had it was a really great main event with Lyra and
Yeah.
with Roxanne. Now I'm going to ask this from your perspective,
Yep.
seeing Roxanne to where she is today, and what are your thoughts and feelings knowing that you and a lot of the trainers here have contributed to where Roxanne is today?
First and foremost, I always say that I feel fortunate to be a part of that journey for Roxanne to help her navigate the independence to get to the WWE. When I first met her, she really was only doing shows in Laredo at the time. I mean, she was very young, like 16 years old or whatever the case may be. And we literally just started New Texas Pro Wrestling. And the first match that we gave her at New Texas Pro Wrestling was her versus Thunder Rosa
Wow.
in San Marcos. Yeah. And when she worked Thunder and she crushed it. I mean, the crowd was chanting women's wrestling after the match. Couldn't be more proud of her. I knew then, and this was in February of 2019, I believe it was. I knew at that point that she was going to be a star. And so I really put a lot of time in helping her. She'd reach out to me, she'd call me, asking for advice. I'd help her navigate bookings and introduce her to certain people. And so to see the journey, I've driven out to Laredo, spent time with her family. I mean, I'm very close with her mother and dad, and like I said, feel very fortunate to be part of that journey. And I messaged her last night and just told her that I was so proud of her for everything, and that she debuted on Raw last night. And so, she messaged me back and we talked a little bit. And so it's incredible to see the growth. And like I said earlier you see almost like a relentlessness that she was going to be successful and that she was going to put in the work to be successful. And she was not going to take no for an answer to be successful. So when she worked the match with Billy Starks at New Texas Pro Wrestling, Maria Kanellis, who was booking Ring of Honor at the time, saw the match, loved both of them. Billy was still, I think, 15 or 16 at that time.
Right.
Yeah. And Roxanne was like, she was 18 or 19 at the time. So she'd been with us for a few years at that point. And so, yeah, I mean, that really catapulted things, because then she won the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship, which kind of segued into her getting the tryout with WWE, which, now she's with WWE and very successful. And I just tell her all the time that, like, to see where she started, back in the day, back at Laredo, to where she is now. I knew that she was always going to get her. I know where she's going to go. But like I said, it's just, I feel very honored to be a part of that journey and to be friends with somebody who is as successful and going to be even more successful in this business, So I think it's super cool.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that back to where you had the time to meet with the family. Like how is that such an important building block to getting to know, especially with Roxanne or any other talent that you have? Like, what was how is that family touch such an important aspect in getting to know that person who's trying to get into the business? Like, how important was that?
Well, I think with Roxanne, she was very young in the business, and she didn't know a lot of people outside of Laredo. So for me to be able to book her on a consistent basis, I think that it was important for me to know her family and for her family to trust me. And I think just in general to have those personal relationships with, I know a lot of people, a lot of the wrestlers that I train now and that work for New Texas Pro Wrestling, and their families come to the shows, and it's always good to see them. And it's good to see, like I said, these people on a personal level, their fans, you see them all the time, and you just want to, you learn about them and you want to see them succeed. That's really for me, a lot of promoters like to, feel that the wrestlers work for them, but I think that I work for the wrestlers. I want to help the wrestlers become successful and sign to major promotions and get those contracts.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, especially now we're seeing Roxanne to where she is now. Do you see anyone in your current roster that has that potential to go to that next level?
I do. I see a lot of our students right now have that potential to get to the next level. There are already some who are in our camp that are already signed contracts with people at the next level, and I think that they could get signed to contracts at bigger companies, at some point in time. But there's a lot of guys, the Eighth Day, Dream Team, Dustin. I'm gonna forget. Stephen Wolf already had a contract with WWE at one point, but he had his Stephen Wolf had his he had a neck injury that he had to get taken care of, so he was unable to sign the contract with WWE. I mean, Hyon is tremendous, one of the best women's wrestlers in the entire world. There's a ton of people that I get to work with, on a weekly basis that have that ability and have that potential to become successful at the next level.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought like Hyan and Steven. Like they are there training alongside like the newer guys. Like how is that a big thing, especially for these new wrestlers who are still kind of familiar, getting to know the ring and learning the ins and outs of it to the from the ones who are already digging the trenches, training them.
Yeah. It's huge. Stephen Wolf has a very storied career on the independents. He was with Evolve for a few years, which so he's run the gambit of the independent wrestling scene. He's seen it, done it, been there. And now recently he's gone to Rev Pro and the WXW in Europe. I mean, that experience is invaluable to what we're trying to do here in Hyon as well. World travel competitor, Japan, the UK. She's worked pretty much every single major wrestling promotion here in the States. So I think there might be something in Mexico very soon, hopefully. So you have those people who have literally, like you said, they dug the trenches. They've, paved the roads. They've done all those things in the business, and they could just give them a little bit of help. Just, every time they see them and they come in, training, if they give them another piece of the puzzle from their experience, how valuable is that? You can't really put that into something measurable, what they've done in their careers and how that can be added to all of the trainees that we have at our camp.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this too, and I think I've been saying this for like the past 2 episodes on the series, that you've had time working with Inspire and with Battle Wars, like, and I'm sure it'll probably be the same similar responses. Like, how important was it to have another promotion to say, hey, let's do a collaboration with this event? And how is this important to not only with Inspire but for you guys? Like, how much has that contributed to where it is today?
When I first started running New Texas Pro Wrestling, collaborating with other wrestling promotions was very high on my list of things to do, because I feel like we are all stronger together. Even to, we have Inspire was one of those promotions when I first started wrestling that I would love. I literally went there like 5 or 6 times to set up chairs as just a new guy wrestling, because I saw all the great people that have come through there. I'm sure you've been to a lot of shows as well, or hopefully you've been to a lot of their shows.
Yep.
So much great talent has come through those doors, and I just knew when I was coming up as a trainee and coming up as a new wrestler that Inspire was the place to be, and I knew that I had to get to Austin. I knew I had to wrestle there, so I got the opportunity to do that. And I've wrestled there quite a bit, over the years. So then the next level for me personally was that to get our wrestling promotion on a similar tier as Inspire AD, and to drum up enough interest that we had a packed house and we went promotion for promotion, and it was a ton of fun. The crowd loved it. Everybody loved the show. And I can't, it's so important that these wrestling promotions work together, and we can all be stronger if we all work together. We're doing the Clutch City Classic this year, the first time, which, has 9 Houston promotions working together under one roof. Just promotions in the city of Houston are working together. This year in June, we're doing our 4th Texas Indie Showcase, which I think after this year, we've collaborated with 35 promotions around the state. Some don't even exist anymore.
Wow.
It's so important to me, because I just think that if we all work together, we all use our resources, and it can just get so much more excitement through all of fan bases together, and it could be something bigger for Texas wrestling in general. It's if we all kind of stay in our corner and, only use our guys and stuff like that, then nobody's ever going to win, because those doors aren't going to be open. The fan bases aren't going to see the other promotion and oh, I didn't know this promotion over here existed, or these wrestlers over here existed. It kind of opens up a whole new doorway and a whole new, a universe of oh, wow, what is this over here? There's all these other wrestlers that I didn't know existed. That's just my thinking process, and I've never shied away from wanting to work with any wrestling promotion. I've literally, anybody that ever want to do business with us, let's make it happen, because I think that it would just work best for the talent.
And it's one of those things where rising tides, raises all ships. And seeing especially, and I want to bring this match up too, because I'm very curious back at Battle Wars with the Capture the Flag match. How the heck did that happen?
I have to give credit where credit's due. It was Bax with Inspire AD that had this crazy idea, and I really don't wrestle too much anymore, but I thought it was a good way to incorporate myself into the Battle Wars, and it was a blast. It was brutal, but it was just a great time. I mean, it was chaos and everything that you'd love in a ladder match, in my opinion. I thought it was a great match, and I really enjoyed it.
It's funny you threw the shirt. I'm gonna say it on the record. I caught that shirt, and it's still in my hamper to this day, because when you threw the shirt, and I was like, oh, okay, let me catch it. Yeah, I did wind up catching it, and I was like, okay, I'm sold already with what New Texas is doing. I got a free shirt out of it.
I'm gonna peel back the curtain just a little bit. I'm gonna give you a story here, because it's hilarious now, and you have the video of the light tubes. So I was I knew that the spot was coming up with the light tubes, so I was going to put this shirt on, right, or I was going to try to get a shirt to put on. And so I asked one of my trainees who was there to bring me a shirt, and they just so happened to bring me an extra small t-shirt.
That's what it was.
I look at it, and I was like, "Oh man, stop it! I'm gonna have to take these light tubes on my back."
Oh,
so
goodness.
I, in anger, threw that shirt out your way, and then we did the spot in front of you, pretty much on the outside there.
Oh yeah.
And the freaking light tubes outside of my bag and landed on the ground.
I'm gonna bring that up too. I'm gonna bring my side on that, dear Lord. So this was walking towards. Yeah, got it.
No, it all worked out for the best. There's a moment there, and I was like, I'm gonna be picking light out my back, light tubes away from this to reconnect. So I'm going to be waiting. I'm making light tubes out of my back for the rest of the week. I was confident at the point that was going to be happening.
Goodness. From my side, because I was watching that and Biss was walking, I was like, oh crap, it's a light tube. Let's see what's going to happen. So when I was, the spot happened, I didn't know there was a delay until I saw the video. So Biss tried to swat it. It went down. I was like, oh, cool. I heard the explosion. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was like a 2-second delay. And it's like, what just happened? Yeah. And like, next thing you know, I'm sitting down. I'm like, oh, there's a short of like the light tube on my shoe. And I was like, oh, okay. No, it's fine. I didn't get cut or anything. I was just surprised that it went through my shoe. It goes to show how much collaboration has really, how much like all these promotions are working together so closely and seeing their uniqueness and their quirkiness, making what's them really them, and working into this one event with Battle War. So like, hopefully we're going to see and that ending with a car crash. That was amazing. I didn't tell this to JJ. There was all this fighting. Here comes Exodus Prime breakdancing. I'm like, oh my gosh, we did not just go there.
I saw the video. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, hilarious. Okay, it really goes to show how much like working together is such an important aspect. And we're going to talk about coming this Friday on the Clutch City Classic. Like, what is that? What is the? Can give us a hype reel on what that event's going to be?
Yeah, so the Clutch City Classic is an idea that I had earlier this year. It's really all 8 or 9 of the wrestling promotions that run in the Houston Premier Arena. And we're all going to come together to put on an event in collaboration. There's going to be everybody putting their best match forward or a match that represents their brand. And I'm really excited, from OTOB to ACW to PWF to Loco Wrestling, Coliseo, which is a lucha show that runs there on Sundays. Just all those promotions. I'm sure Miss Wrestle Rave, All Fury, Contender Series in New Texas is under our umbrella. So just really excited about it. And then to finally be able to get to do the Pack versus the 8th Day in a main event 6-man tag team match. I just know that's going to be insane. Those two teams have really just kicked ass at New Texas for, about a year, maybe 8th Day for a few years now, a couple of years at this point. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be great for the wrestling community of Houston. And, I'm hoping this can be an annual event like the Texas City Showcase that we're going to have in June.
And I'm curious too, like, will there be, and I'm curious from hearing both sides from the Pack and O'Day. What are they trying to get out of this match? I had O'Day on before, and they want to run things with Texas wrestling. Now, on the Pack side, based on what you have and what you've observed from them, what are they trying to get out of this match?
I think they're both trying to, show that their group, their faction is the number one group in Texas. And, what a better way to prove it than to, face off against one of the other, top groups in the entire state. You could make an argument maybe for Culture Shock and a couple of other groups around the state, but those two groups, the Pack and the AFA, have been winning championships and making waves across the state, and they're both very tight groups, and I think they both just have something to prove, like a chip on their shoulder, to say like, we are the best group. We're to be, we are the ones who are going to be running Texas wrestling. And I think that's what's going to be on the line at the Clutch City Classic. We're going to find out who, at the very least, in Houston wrestling or New Texas Pro Wrestling. But I think that's going to send waves out into other parts of the state as well. So
exactly. And I'm going to end this conversation, and we're going to end the series on this note. Picture someone who's been at a New Texas show, and they're not familiar. They watched a couple of shows, and they ask you, let's say at a random happenstance during intermission or some other time, and they ask, hey, I want to start learning how to wrestle. From your perspective, what advice would you give to that person to be, and what can you make them say, hey, I want this is the best wrestling school that we have here in Houston?
So, first and foremost, you just want to make sure that what are your goals in this business? What do you want to get out of this? And kind of once you figure that out, up to throat as well. So you're like, wait for the coming. Now back.
All right, well, we start that line over. We can start that line over. Don't worry, we can start that line over.
Yeah. No, you want to figure out what they want at the business, and then most of them want to get signed or go to WWE. You just gotta let them know it's going to be a tough road. And foremost, conditioning is very important. You got to come into business some sort of shape, because learning the fundamentals of pro wrestling is so important. And I think the attention to detail we have with all of our students to try to help them learn and to get over those plateaus, when you first start out and everything, especially JJ is just one of the absolute best trainers. He has a long list of people that he's helped out, and, from like a day one, to, people who are signed to this day that will ask him advice or doubt as far as critiques or whatever the case may be. So, you start with somebody there that pays great attention to detail and wants you to progress. And then we have our Texas Contender Series, which is kind of the next step once you get past your fundamentals and get to that point where you can start working matches. And then we have, the Texas Contender Series, which I give my 100% to every show, that I treat as if it was a new Texas Pro Wrestling show. And, you have great coaches who are there that are giving feedback and everything like that. And you just grow, develop. And I think that's why a lot of our kids have grown so quickly. And the amount of time that they've actually wrestled matches is because of all of that. And it takes a village, it takes everybody that helps with our camp, JJ, Bulldog, Stephen Wolf, Hyam, Deo Dela Cruz. There's a lot more that come in every so often just to help out. I think having all of those people and having us all driven towards the similar goal to be, to get these people to be signed and to get these people to the next level. I think that's why it makes us the best. It's a formula that we're kind of working on, that we're seeing the results of now. And I'm very confident in our team, and I'm very confident in what we're doing. And I don't think that it's been done or being done the way that we're doing it, which is going to ultimately produce a lot of, it's tough. You can't say this person for sure is going to get signed. You could never say that. But to try to put them in the best situation and to push them to be the best versions of themselves, to give them an opportunity to get signed at one point in time. I think that that's what we can do in our camp and at New Texas.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that back to, especially with the Texas Contender Series.
Yep.
What is the one thing that the students are going to learn when they do get into that moment in the Contender Series?
Yeah. So the one that I really wish that I had when I first started wrestling was more opportunities just to wrestle, because you don't get better at wrestling unless you wrestle. There's a little bit of, I would listen to a lot of people, and a lot of the people who grew up in the territory days would just hit the roads, and they do these shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So ultimately, you're either going to get better at wrestling, or you're just going to figure out that's not for you. So for us in this day and age, there's just not really a lot of repetition promotion. Not a lot of promotions you go out and get a repetition, which I wished and prayed I had when I first started. I wish I just could, as soon as I could start wrestling, I just get out there and start wrestling, because those formative years are just so important to a wrestler. At some point, I'm over 10 years in the business now. I really don't want to go out there and bump if I don't have to. But when I was first starting, those first couple of years, I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. I'm in, let's get in the ring. Let's wrestle these matches. Let's do this drill. Let's do that. Let's do this. And so it's just so important, those formative years, to get out there and get those repetitions in and to learn what are you doing right and what are you doing wrong. A lot of things also, I took it from another form of entertainment and stand-up comedy. The only way to get better at your routine is you get up on stage.
Right.
So same thing with wrestling. The only way that you're going to get better at wrestling is to go out on stage in front of real people and wrestle. Obviously, you can get better at training. You can learn things in training, but there's literally nothing that can replicate a live repetition in front of a real crowd. And then to get that feedback, the critique back almost instantaneously after the match to learn. And then on Mondays usually we'll watch the Contender Series back, and we'll go over the tape that way, so you get to see what you did right and what you did wrong. So I think that formula there, a lot of the tape study stuff I did when I was playing like football and basketball in high school. So that tape study, going back and watching your stuff back with coaches and stuff like that to give you feedback. That stuff, that's the real formula. That's why I think that the growth of the people, the Dustin Wins, the 8 Days, the Dream Teams that started with us, now you're seeing these guys become serious players in all of Texas at this point in time. And, getting scouted by very important people and important companies. So that's why I think all that stuff is important. And that's why the Texas Contender Series is my thing that I brought into the fold. That I said this is very important to the growth of wrestlers. And now we have those guys up on the up and up. There's more kids coming through the system that are going to, either doing or have beat on the Contender Series. They're now getting that development as well.
Awesome. But otherwise, this is the end of Crash Course. You have the floor. Where can we find you, and what are some events that are upcoming? And we did talk about the Clutch City Classic. If there's any more that you would like to share, take it away.
We have it. Well, I'm not 100% sure when this is coming out, but on April 11th we have our Texas Contender Series Goes Country. You can watch that live on IWTV, or you could be there at the Houston Premier Arena. On April the 19th, we have the Clutch City Classic at the Houston Premier Arena. You can watch that live on IWTV, or be there at the Houston Premier Arena. On May the 11th, we are going to Pinballs in Buda, Texas, right outside of Austin for our debut there. I'm really excited about that show. On June the 23rd, we will be back in Pasadena for the Texas Indie Showcase 4. That will be another huge collaborative event. We're making our debut in San Angelo, Texas on August the 10th. More information will come on that. I just learned today I'm now going to be a writer and collaborator for bodyslam.net. So I'm super excited about that. So now I get to be part of the wrestling media and everything. So I'm super pumped to that venture in my life. And, at Kiefer Bartek Pro, I think, on Twitter and Instagram. But most importantly, New Texas Pro Wrestling on Instagram and Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, as long as TikTok's around, YouTube, Threads, Facebook, Texas Contender Series on Instagram and Twitter. So I do a lot of social media stuff, but follow us, find us, whatever you can. I'm just super excited about the future, and I appreciate you having me on. It really means I don't do a ton of podcasts anymore, but I saw the ones you did with O'Day and JJ and some other people like Brad and stuff like that. So I was real excited to be on here. So
thank you so much. High praise, man, honestly. Thank you so much for really contributing with what's going on with New Texas. And things are on the up and up, and we got to see we'll throw in Brian Keith on there too. We got to see Roxanne Perez and Brian Keith doing their own thing, and you've contributed a lot to their success. So honestly, I'm gonna give you your flowers on that. So
I appreciate it.